a lot of people kind of use Ableton Live just here in the arrangement view. I've noticed people doing that, and I'm going to kind of say right now that it's pretty important that you don't do that, because if you just use Ableton Live with this view here, the arrangement view only, it's kind of pointless to use Ableton Live. It's funny because I always tell people that Pro Tools and Logic are potatoes and potatoes. It's like the same thing, just you pronounce it a different way. They do things the same way, they act in the same way. Generally, they're very same-ish programs. There are differences, and depending on what you're trying to do at the end of the day, you might want to use Logic or Pro Tools, one over the other. But the way they kind of go about it, like there's buses, and there's like aux channels, and there's MIDI screens, and there's all that stuff, and it's all very same-ish. So Logic and Pro Tools are like potatoes and potatoes. Ableton Live is like oranges. It's still round, it's still something you can eat, but it's a very different thing, and it does things in different ways. And you have to get used to it like that. And the way to get the most power out of Ableton Live is to use it in this different way. And so if all you're doing is using Ableton Live as in the arrangement view, then you're really using it just like you would use Pro Tools or Logic. And it doesn't really become that different at that point. And it's actually less powerful to use it like that. You can still do everything, mostly. But honestly, Pro Tools and Logic have more tools, and the way they use the tools is differently. So if all you're going to do is use Ableton Live in this view here, I'd recommend just using Logic if you're doing a lot of MIDI stuff. Ableton Live really gets its power, and the difference is this one here, is the session view. And once we've used the session view for a while, you're going to start to see why people like to use Ableton Live so much and where the power of it is. And Jordan says that Logic all day, for me it seems a lot easier to get used to. Well, that's because you haven't had my lessons yet. So once we've gone through these lessons, you might change your mind about it. Anything to use when you haven't been really exposed to it for very long is different and more complicated, because it's just different. I mean, Ableton Live has, there's definitely different ways to approach Ableton Live. But once we go through those and I show you how to kind of get to things, you might change your mind a little bit. So we got this here. Oops, hold on. Let me get back over here like that. Cool. Our session view and our arrangement view. And what I'm going to do here real quick is I'm just going to set up a couple things and show you, kind of point out why Ableton Live is so cool and what's really neat about it. Ableton Live, the way I look at it, is it's not so much a DAW. It is a DAW, but it's not so much a DAW as it is more of a performing sampler instrument. And what I mean by that is, I've got these, let me move these MIDI channels over here, and I got these audio tracks here. So let's say I've got some good sample libraries on my computer, and I'm just going to open up Sample Magic, and I'm going to grab some stuff out of here. Let's grab, let's see here. We'll grab some analog house. Let's grab some drum loops from here. Got drum loops. Okay, we'll just use that one there. Right, so that's playing. And then what I can do is I can go over here to let's go to Progressive House and grab a bass line from in here. Right, we'll grab this one here. Cool, that sounds good. Let's go down here to Dusty House. Grab something from here, maybe. Grab a... Cool. Throw this in here. All right, now I'll take this and I'll throw a, hold on, let me just change this real quick. Cool. Turn this down a little bit so you can hear me. Jersey Shore vibes. Ha. I guess. All right, so I got this here. Throw the synth on here. Got some lead sounds. So what I'm doing is just throwing these parts in here, and now I've got all these parts in here, and now I can start to kind of mess with these and arrange these around a little bit. Let me just add some more hi-hats and stuff in here because there's not much going on. So I'm just going to stop all these from playing here. And we'll add some more hi-hats. Let's go in here. I'm going to just throw in some drum kits that come with Ableton Live here. Load this one in. Cool. That's the wrong thing though. Something like that. Oh, you're an auto beat as well, sorry. No, auto beat. And what I'm doing is I'm just auditioning these here on the side. Okay, and I'm gonna throw these in once they're auditioned and I like it, whatever it is. Pull that down there, and then let's get all right, cool. Turn this. Cool. So I got that there. Pull that guy in. And now we can turn these back on. Move this around. Right. And so if I want to now, let me just label these real quick. Here's my drum loop. Here is, what is this one? Closed hi-hat 1. All right, this is my bass line. This one here is what? It's my hand clap 2. It's my hi-hat 2. Whoops. My tom kick. This is session view, yeah. My bass loop here. What is this one? Oh, this is kind of atmosphere. Pad. So now I can start taking these and make something with these, like make a little song out of this. So I'm just going to take this and put it down here like this. And you see across over here, I can go ahead and play anything that's on a line. See down here on my master side of the screen over here, right there, these ones here that I'm moving up and down, these here will play anything across. So if I had this here, I can play this. I can and I can grab these as I want and move these in here. Now play this over here. Take this down here. And I can arrange things and kind of mess around with it as it plays. And this is where the power of this comes from. It's like being able to throw loops in here really quick and mess around with stuff really fast and just get ideas together. So I can take stuff from any kind of tempo and just throw it in here. And this is where Ableton Live is really powerful, is just to be able to get these ideas together. So for example, if I go over here to my Sample Phonics library in here and I want to throw in like some kind of a flute or something like that, I've got these in here. And these are all, you can see these are not the same tempo. Here's my, right? This one's 80 BPM, so I can take this, let's just throw that one in here, over here. Stop this here. I got that there. Let's take a hip hop group and throw it in here. We got some let's see, boom bap drums. Let's take this guy, throw it in here. Let's use repitch for this. So now let's see what that one sounds like. Turn the volume down a little bit. Martin says, these are in the sound library. No, these are not in the Ableton sound library. These are mine that I have on my hard drive. Samples that I've just collected over the years. But I do have, there's some really good ones for y'all to download from Canvas, if you go into Canvas, and I'll show you those in a bit here. There's a lot of, I've got some really cool sample libraries up there that are free that I've collected from around the internet, and I put them into one library for you, so you do have some really cool sample libraries to play around with. So you got that there. Let's see, let's put this over here. This. Right, and so my point is that you can bring stuff from anywhere, all over the place, and throw it in here as long as it fits the definition of a loop, and it works really, really well. These things just kind of like go in there, and that's really what the power, one of the main powers of Ableton Live. The main thing with Ableton Live that people really like about it is the speed at which you can get ideas together. A lot of electronic producers these days use Ableton Live for that reason, and they switch over from Logic or Pro Tools or whatever because it's just so fast to get your ideas out with Ableton Live. So that's like a quick overview of like just the basics of what you can do with it. We're gonna actually go back now and kind of deconstruct that and show you all what I'm looking at here, what's on the screen, so I can kind of demystify everything so you can see it all and understand what's actually happening here on the screen. All right, so all right, let's go ahead and do that. I think most people are here. Yeah, Geo says when drop it in, the loops are automatically in time. Yes, I mean, you've seen me doing it, right? I mean, I haven't done anything to these loops. These are not like, I just grabbed them out of a folder. I haven't gone through and set them up ahead of time. These are literally just, I just dropped them in and hit play, and they work. And that's how fast it is. And that's why people are like, whoa, wait, hold on a second, because it seems too easy. It seems too good to be true. Like, wait, what? That's not how that works, right? But yeah, you're absolutely right. That's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And that's like why people use Ableton Live, because it's really that easy. All right, so we're gonna start back over here. Now we've done that, I'm gonna not save any of that because that's garbage. And I'm going to pull the screen all the way over here to the right, and we're going to have a look at this stuff. I'm just going to make sure it's like right. Yeah, cool. Super, super easy. Yep. All right, so if we look here in, not there, here in preview, here is, no more quantize. Well, there's still quantize in it, but yeah, you don't have to, yeah. Ableton is definitely a beast. All right, so let's take a look at this. So if you look in Canvas at the notes, it's all right here laid out with numbers according to this screen over here. So if you look at this screen here and you go through these here, you'll understand what's going on here. And then it does talk a little bit about the arrangement view a little bit later on, and just to show you where things are in the arrangement view. But let's take a look at the session view, because the session view is like the weird one. It's the one that everybody sees when they first open the program, but doesn't really understand. Okay, so up here in the left-hand corner, this is where all your stuff to do with tempo and everything is, right up here. So here we have Link. Link is a thing that Ableton developed a few years ago that allows you to connect different programs from different devices and have them sync up in time. So Link basically syncs the timing of different devices together, different programs. So for example, if I have another computer and it's on the same Wi-Fi network as my computer here, I can hit Link on both of them and they'll connect up, and one will be the controller and the other one will follow that one. And you hit play and they'll both play, and they'll both play in time. It's a really elegant solution to something that used to be a big problem, because if you had multiple computers and you wanted to sync up and work together on stuff in the same room, you really couldn't do it easily before. You could kind of do it, but it didn't work that well. Nowadays, as long as you're on the same Wi-Fi network, they'll just sync them up and they'll both play in time. It's actually really, really cool. So that's Link. Tap tempo just allows you to tap your tempo in. So if I want to tap it in, I can just do that. I can tap it in. I'm tapping right now. And I can change my tempo. And here is where I can change my tempo. And if I click on it, I click it, and so it's highlighted there. And I hit a number like 110, and I hit enter, and I can just type it in. And there's my tempo. I can also click and drag this up and down, or I can use my arrow keys to drag it up and down. And one thing that's really cool about this is if I go in here, I'm going to grab a piano. Here, we're going to grab this one here. Cool. So I'm going to play this. Now what's cool about this is that's like fast, and you can see these two tempos here. One of them is 82 and one of them is 69. So they're different tempos, but they're playing in time with each other. But now what I can do is I can say, okay, that's too fast. It doesn't sound right to my ear. It sounds like it's too fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow it down, and you're going to hear it slowing down in real time. All right, so you can hear that slowing down. I can also speed it up in real time. And all I'm doing is I click on the number here, and I can use my up and down arrow keys, or I can type in a number. So watch this. I'm going to hit play. And as it goes, I'm going to type in a number. Oops. Right? You can hear how fast that changes up. And that's just using my tempo right there. And so we're going to come back to how all that works. But that's a really important thing to understand is you can just like, what plugin is that? What do you mean plugin? There's no plugins. This is just Ableton Live. No plugins. All right. So now we got here, these two things here are things that really, I've never seen anybody use these in real life. These are just, these are nudge buttons. And there was something that Ableton Live tried to do. They tried to make they tried to make the program kind of more DJ friendly for a while back, a few versions ago. It was just like, let's make it so DJs can use Ableton Live on a stage, and then nobody really did use it like they kind of intended it for. So yeah, these are pretty useless buttons. I wish they weren't even there anymore. All right, so we got time signature here, and then here's your metronome. You can turn the metronome on and off. So if I pause these, see, I got that there. Right? So you can hear the metronome is there, and you can change the click sound by clicking this and changing the sound here. You can change different sounds. My favorite one is the wood sound. I think that one sounds just natural and nice. And you can change the rhythm of it and stuff like that. You can have it so it only plays the metronome when you're recording, stuff like that. But I usually just leave it alone and kind of just let it do its thing. Over here is your global quantize. This one here is the global quantize. We will talk about the global quantize. We'll come back to it. That's really, really important, but we need to understand a little bit about more what's going on first. Over here is the follow. So if you have like your, if you're like zoomed in on something and I have my follow turned on, it'll follow along. It'll follow along with my clip there. And I can zoom in and out and stuff like that. I don't usually leave that on. I'm not a big fan of follow, but that's just my personal preference. This here is your transport section up here. And basically this is showing you information about what's going on in the arrangement view. So even though we're looking at the session view right now, it's important to understand that the arrangement view and the session view are connected together, kind of. So right now you'll see there's nothing in my arrangement view, but if I hit play, we can see my playhead is moving across my arrangement view. But there's nothing there, but we're hearing stuff happen. And the reason why we're hearing stuff happen is because in my session view, stuff is playing. Here, let me just go ahead and stop both of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have this piano part play. If I hit play on it, it's going to play. But we look over here, there's nothing happening in this arrangement view. But watch this. I'm going to take this drum loop. I'm going to copy it over here. I'll just call this some drum loop, and I'm going to call this some piano loop. Oops. I'm going to call some piano loop, and I'm going to copy this over into the other one, and watch what happens. So I hit this. Now if we start playing from the beginning, how soon is too soon to put a beat repeat on it? Ha! So now if I hit play on this, so you notice how it started playing when the drum loop came in here. So what's happening is my piano loop is playing from my session view, and the drum loop is playing from the arrangement view. And this is the confusing part about Ableton Live that people get kind of stuck on, is that you actually, it's two different things that are happening at the same time in Ableton Live. And you can force everything to be in the arrangement view, or you can force everything to be in the session view, or you can use a combination of both. Eventually you need to get everything into your arrangement view when you're laying out the song and stuff like that. But and also to answer your question, Gloop, how soon is too soon to put a beat repeat on it? I would say beat repeat's okay. I would definitely, if you're still using beat repeat, really what you want to do is you want to graduate to isotopes. This one here, the where is it? Stutter Edit. If you're still using beat repeat, you'd probably love Stutter Edit. Stutter Edit's, it's much cooler than beat repeat. It allows a lot more flexibility. You can do a lot more with it. And right now, Isotope for the next couple days is running a crazy sale. That's like, it's like Stutter Edit and Beat Tweaker and a whole bunch of other stuff for like 49 bucks. It's an insane sale, and you should totally get it. I highly recommend it, especially if you like beat repeat, because you'll flip over Stutter Edit. It's dope. So anyway, so I got this here. Yep, you're welcome. Throw this in here like this, and then boom. Now, if we want to see what's happening here, I can actually take my piano loop and stick it over here in the screen as well. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. But just if you want to see it, I can take it and move it over here as well. And I can hit play. Now you can see it laid out. And this is what you'd be used to if you're used to using Logic or Pro Tools. But we're gonna hold off on that for a second, and we're gonna come back over here and just play things from the session view here. So as you can see though, everything was playing and stopping from these transport windows up here. So this stuff here is play, stop, and record. And what this does is it does everything into this arrangement view over here. So we're going to come back and talk about that. We're not going to follow it, like we're not going to follow that through to the end just yet. Here is my little plus sign, and this plus sign is my MIDI arrangement overdub. So in the arrangement view, it'll allow me to overdub stuff. I don't really use this one too much because I don't really do much of my producing in the arrangement view. I don't really do my MIDI recording in the arrangement view. I do my MIDI recording mostly in the session view here. Here we have our automation stuff. It allows you basically to, it's like you're arming your automation. If you remember in Pro Tools, you had write mode and touch and latch and all that stuff. Well, Ableton Live has something similar where you can write automation in. It's handled a little bit differently, but it's very similar. This is the back to arrangement button. We'll come back to that one. This is this one here. This is the one I'm looking at. Look up here at the top of my screen. This one here, this is the box. This is your MIDI capture button, and this is super cool. Let's say I have a MIDI track, and let's get a drum loop in here. Let me get some drums in here that I can play around with a little bit. Let's use battery from Native Instruments. We'll throw a battery on here. Let that load up here for a second. And I'm going to grab a my 909 multiple kit. Oh, did I just crash everything? Urgh. Battery, what are you doing, dude? Why? I was doing that to Pro Tools. I guess it's not. Yeah. Whatever. It's all good. This wasn't a masterpiece. There we go. And it's all back anyway. Well, we're not going to use battery. That is for show. Time to move to Logic Pro. I'm good, man. I'm good. Here, we'll just drag this one in here. Time to not use battery, I think, is more like it. Cool. That's a 909. We don't want that. Let's use an 808. All right, so there we go. So now, let's say that I'm playing this. And I'm just kind of playing along with my drums. I'm not recording anything, I'm just like going. Right, I'm like, oh man, that was super cool, but I wasn't actually recording. Well, what I can do is I go up here to hit this button right here, and now you can see it came in. And it does that. Well, actually, Morwick, yeah, just so you know, it is really neat, I agree. But Logic also does that. So that is not a reason to not use Logic. Logic actually had that one first. Logic has the, what do they call it? Record, capture, capture, record, or something like that. Oh, you know, okay, cool. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, because some people don't know that about Logic and some people do. So I never know who knows what about these programs. So that's a really cool thing. And the other cool thing that this does, that's something really neat, is that if I'm just playing along, I'm not like nothing's playing, I'm not even hitting play or anything like that, I'm just like. All right, so I got this, so now I hit that. I don't even have to be playing anything. All I have to do is just, so I don't have to have hit play. I just play the beat that's in my head, and Live captures the tempo from it, and it captures the beat, and it plays it back for me. It's super, super cool. Oh, you have Live Studio? Nice. Yeah, we'll get into Live Studio. Does it quantize the notes? Well, I actually had to hit quantize myself, and we're going to talk about quantizing a little bit later. But it does auto quantize stuff if you want it to. Hold on, let me just do this. It does auto quantize stuff if you want it to, but not when it's capture recording. Yeah, the Live Studio. Yeah, I've got the Live Studio. We're definitely going to talk about some live stuff on a different, like the studio stuff, on a different day. But so that's how that capture record thing works. Let me put this back to 85. So now I got this here. I'm just going to bring this down here. Yeah, so we got this. Move these down here. Move this one. Let's call this one 808 loop. Give you a name. Cool. So I got this here. I got all this stuff here. Nice. Cool, awesome, okay. I want to give that 808 a little bit of swing, but I'll show you all that in just a second. So let's say I've got this drum loop here, and I want to record more, like another drum into it. Let's say I want to record a hi-hat into it, like right here, right? So I can go over here and hit play, bring my metronome back on, and I can just say, okay, there's my hi-hat. I'll use that kind of shaker sound, and I want to record that into it. Well, what I can do is I can hit this one right here, and that'll record my shaker into it. So there's the sound I want to record, right? And I can just go. Now we can just play this one over here. Cool. And so that's how you can just record stuff on top of other things inside the MIDI clips here. Okay. Use this button right up here, capture, record, or sorry, overdub. So over here is our kind of loop point. This, again, this is another thing that refers to the arrangement view here. You can see in my arrangement view, I've got this little loop, this little kind of like bar thing here. And this number here is showing me where that bar is located. So this first number here is showing me where the bar is located. And over here on this side, it shows me how long my loop is. So if I want my loop to be 1 bar, 2 bars, 4 bars, whatever, 8 bars, like that, I can just set that number there. And I can use this little area here as either a punch in and punch out, or I can use it as a loop to loop that section of the song over and over and over again. And again, the loop is no different in Ableton Live from like Logic or something like that. So that's how that works there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to this right-hand side. And a couple things here. This is my draw mode to turn that on and off. So for example, down here in the bottom of my screen, I have my MIDI clip. And just like you would in Logic or even Pro Tools if you have it turned on for this. Let's say I want to program that in. So I can do is I can go up here into the upper right-hand corner, and I can turn on my draw mode. And I can go in here to draw mode here and just turn this on and program it in. And for those of you who are used to FL Studio, it's kind of similar in how you would program stuff in FL Studio. So I can just go over here and click that. Now, right, I can do that. Or I can even make a new clip here. I can just double click and make a new clip. I just double clicked right here in one of these empty boxes. These are called clip slots. I can double click in one of these and make a new clip. It's automatically going to come up as 1 bar. And now I can go ahead and program in my beat. So here's this, boom. These are quarter notes, oh no, 16th notes. Boom, okay. Here, I'm going to make this 2 bars. Like that, and then put a little hi-hat in here, put it like that, and then we'll do this. And I can even do it quicker by just kind of going over here and dragging across. And now I'm gonna go, let's take that one out and put one right there. So now I hit right. And so you can see I can program in my beats like that as well. And of course, being able to do that means you have to understand about, some music theory and rhythms and stuff like that. But really, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And so you can just like program stuff in. And when you've done this long enough, you can just be like, boop, 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 boom, there's my beat. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then make some little changes and stuff like that. And, if you wanted to do like a kind of more of a trap type of thing here, let's take all of these and turn this off. And, we've got our hi-hats. So what I can do is I can get this, and I can use Command 1 and 2. And see down here in this bottom screen, down here in the bottom screen is there's a grid down here, and over here in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see it says 1/8. And if I hit Command 1 and 2, I can change that and adjust my grid really quick. So if I want to go in here, I just go ahead and hit this and click and drag. And now, oops, wait, hold on a second. Click and drag. Wow. Like that, and then change this here, drag back that, and just put that in. And I got some little rolls and stuff now. You could even make this like faster rolls. That. Turn these guys off. So you can do stuff like that. Yep. So this is how fast it is. When are you going to make music? So I'm trying to watch some things. Yeah, cool, man. Well, thanks for showing up. So this is this is how easy it is to kind of make this stuff once you get going with it. So you just have to kind of get used to this. And I think this is like, you can do similar things in Pro Tools and Logic and stuff like that, but it's just, I don't know, it just makes it easy. And the fact that you can just throw everything together so quick, I really like that. So let's keep going over here. So that's your draw mode. Yeah, you can mess around with the pitch and stuff like that. Yeah, that would be in a slightly different screen, but we'll come back to that. We're going to come back to all that stuff. We're going to get into all that so you can mess with pitches and things. There are different ways to do that, and some ways are easier than others. Yeah. So here we have our little pencil tool here, and that's our draw mode, like we just said. And here's our MIDI keyboard. This MIDI keyboard, basically what it does is it turns my computer keyboard into a, you can't see it. I don't have my second camera today because it's over when we were doing the recordings this weekend. But I can turn my computer keyboard into a MIDI keyboard. That's what this one does here. So if you're like with your laptop and you're somewhere and you want to make some beats and do some stuff, then you can without having a keyboard there. That's pretty cool there. This is key mode, which allows me to assign keys to things on my screen. This one here it's a really old, it's from a long time ago in Ableton Live. And it used to be that you could use it like, you could use it for all sorts of cool stuff, for triggering loops and stuff like that from your keyboard. But nowadays, I think mostly people use it for setting up keyboard shortcuts from their keyboard to change some of the shortcuts that you can use. And that's what I use it for. I think that's what a lot of people use it for, because it's a lot easier to just have the right controller. And again, later on, I'm going to show you various controllers. We're going to take a look at all the different controllers you can get for Ableton Live. And I've got my push I'm bringing over today. So I'm going to be showing you that this week. So, then Geo says, cannot move at the speed you're moving on Logic. Yeah, it's a little bit harder in Logic. People who use Logic all the time are really good, but it's not as fast as Ableton Live, and that's why I made the switch over. I mean, I've used Logic since version 2, I've used Pro Tools since version 5, and when Ableton Live came out, I immediately was just like, wow, this is really dope. And that was in version 1, so I've been using Ableton Live since version 1. Here we have a MIDI button up here in the right-hand corner. This MIDI button here allows me to assign controllers to control different things like filters and stuff like that. So for example, if I wanted to put a filter on this drum loop here, let's grab this audio effect. Let's grab the auto filter here, throw that on there. And I want to assign that to a knob on my keyboard. And again, I don't have my other camera up right now just because this weekend I was busy. But what I can do is I can assign this knob here to this, and I'll assign this knob this knob to here, this knob to here. I'm just turning the knob, and then put this on here, and now I can mess with this here. So while it plays, I can mess with that as it plays. All right, so I can mess with that. And I can go ahead and assign different knobs to this one here on the same controller. So you can mess with that super easy. And even stuff like that in like Pro Tools, it's impossible because Pro Tools only lets you use their controllers they want you to use, which is stupid. And then Logic, you can do that kind of stuff, but it's not quite as user-friendly for some reason. I don't know. It's like, but yeah, Johan, I totally agree. You got to have that Pro Tools base. Yeah, I mean, this is why I don't teach Logic Ableton Live first, is because Ableton Live for making beats is fire, but Pro Tools is necessary for working in the industry. So, all right, so we got that there. That's my MIDI control. Over here, this here is my CPU usage. So that just always sits there, and you can see how much computer processing power you're using. This number is fine until you get to about 60 or 70, and then it starts to hiccup and starts to do stuff, and that's when you want to increase your buffer size. And we're going to talk about the buffer size another time, but it's right here. Why? It's going out to sound. Okay, that's interesting. I'm just going to leave that like that because it's working for now. But so that's here is good until you hit about 60%. Now these little squares, if I hit these keys on my keyboard, see that light is flashing? That little yellow light is flashing up in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, what that means is that my controller is talking to the computer. That's like a little troubleshooting thing. So if I'm playing my keyboard and I see this light is flashing, that means that I'm getting signal to Ableton Live, but it's not. I'm not hearing anything. So something's happening in Ableton Live that's not okay. Something weird is happening. So in this case, right now, I don't have anything record enabled. That's why we're not hearing anything. So I turn it on. I'm like, okay, I should hear it. Oh, I'm still not hearing it. Why am I not hearing it? Well, I know this is a drum kit, and drum kits are only on a specific range of your keyboard. Hey, how you doing? So if I go down here, I octave down. Now I can see, oh, okay, cool. Now I'm hearing stuff. Okay, cool. So that's good. So really what you want to use this little light up here in the upper right-hand corner is for troubleshooting. If you feel like you should be hearing something, but you're not hearing something, look at this little light first. If that's flashing, then that means that probably you just are in the wrong octave, or you don't have the track record enabled or something like that. So that's what I always look at first. when I'm messing with stuff. Hold on, why is this not? Hold on, let me just turn this on. Oh, I don't have Launchpad. Let's get the Launchpad here. Boop, 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 boop. Launch control. LPC Live 2. That's what I want. Is that the one I want? Yeah, actually, that's probably not the one I want. I want to use my push for that tomorrow. We'll use right now. Well, I'll show you this another time. It's actually pretty dope, but it's also like if you want to have a cheap version of the push without buying a push, there's some really cool secrets I can show you. All right, so that's this over here. This D means it's a hard disk overload. So if you see that D is flashing, sometimes that means it's accessing too much stuff on your hard drive. It's not so great. Down here on the lower right-hand corner, this is your I/O section. It turns on and off this stuff here. These little buttons here turn things on and off on your screen, or hide them, I should say. So there's the I/O section, hides that. Sends, returns, mixer. The D is for track delay, which is for MIDI stuff. And then you have your crossfader here for DJ stuff, if you wanted to use Ableton Live for DJing things. I usually just leave these off. And then these other ones here, one of the cool things about this is that shortcuts for this is the first letter here. So for example, if I want to show or hide the input-output, I hit Command-Option-I, and it shows and hides the inputs and outputs. If I want to hide my sends, it's Command-Option-S. If I want to hide my returns, it's Command-Option-R. If I want to hide my mixer, it's Command-Option-M. And you can turn them back on the same way. So that's how you can show and hide stuff. Or you can just hit the buttons over here, whichever way you want to do it. So there's that. Down here across the bottom there's this little view area down here can actually show me two different things. This can show me, right now we're looking at my device stuff. And then if I click on this button here, down here at the bottom, that shows me my MIDI clip. So here, if you look all the way down at the bottom of my screen, you can see I'm flipping back and forth between these. And this is my device view and then my clip view. And I can click on those. The other way you can switch between those is hit Shift-Tab. Shift and Tab will let you flip back and forth between these. So that's how that works there. And basically these views show two different things. One is whatever's in my clip. So if it's a MIDI clip, if I click on my clip up here, it's going to show me what's in my clip. And you can see I've got different things going on here. This is a 808 loop 2. This would be 808 loop 3. And to rename stuff, you just hit Command-R. You click on it and hit Command-R, and it renames it. They don't have it set up for double clicking. It's Command-R. So here's this. And then if I want to look at my audio stuff, I click on an audio, and now I can see my audio down in the bottom. So that's a pretty cool way that it works. And that's your view over here. And then over here on the left-hand side, it shows you information about that clip. So like a MIDI clip shows you MIDI information. It shows you what notes you're using. I can make it go faster or slower using these here. I can reverse it. I can inverse it. I can make it legato. I can duplicate it. I can loop it, all that stuff. I can change the name. I can change the color. I can change the groove, which I'm going to show you here a little bit later. Different stuff like that. And I think if you go down here, these little buttons here allow me to show you different controls over things. So this is my launch, how the clip launches. Right here is launch mode. And over here is my envelopes. So this one here is my envelopes. And this is like automation for each clip. It's like automation that you can loop. So that's pretty cool stuff there. And the MIDI, the audio clips are basically the same. So instead of having MIDI information here, it has audio information. So this shows you where the loop is, and it shows me where the audio file is, and then it shows you like what kind of specifications that audio file has, like 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, 24-bit, and then 2 channels, which means it's stereo. But you can also just see it's stereo because it looks stereo. It's like got 2 lines there. Over here, again, this one's exactly the same as the other one. It's just their name and stuff like that. Launch mode is the same as the MIDI clip, and then envelopes is the same as the MIDI clip. The only one's different is this one right here. And you can see a couple of other differences we've got is you can edit, you can save, reverse, put it into your RAM, fade it out, high Q, transpose it. We can turn the warp on and off, and warp is the Ableton Live talk for elastic audio in Pro Tools or flex mode in Logic. It's called warp in Ableton Live. And then we can change the warp mode, like how it's going to sound and stuff like that. And then we can have our loop turned on and off. One thing about loop in Ableton Live is that you cannot, if my warp is off, I cannot turn my loop on. The loop and the warp are connected in Ableton Live. You got to have warp turned on. And warp is on by default. It's almost always on. I mean, it's like 99% of the time warp is turned on, especially in the session view. So yeah, texture is pretty cool. It's got, you can get some neat sounds out of texture mode. All right, so that's that. Over here on the left, if you've just installed Ableton Live, then you've got the info view here. And the info view, if I mouse over anything, it's like a built-in instruction manual here. And you might say, wow, Logic has that too. And you're right, Logic does have that. They stole this idea from Ableton. Ableton has had this in from the very beginning. It's how I learned how to use Ableton Live in the very, very beginning. I just followed the info view here, and then I read a whole bunch of books. But yeah, and you can mouse over anything and it shows you, it tells you about that thing. So that's your info view there. It's also shift question mark turns that on and off. What is up, Shayla? How you doing? Right, so it turns that on and off. And I recommend keeping it on in the beginning. Okay, and then finally, we get up here, and this is our browser window. This is like a window into different parts of your computer so you can grab files and stuff off your computer. And it's almost always open, but you can close it by hitting Command-Option B for browser. So open and close that, Command-Option B. And the way this works is over here on the left, I've got different like kind of menus, and over here on the right, I can get into more exact things. So you'll notice, go down here, there's 3 sections over here on the left. There's my collections, my categories, and my places. And then collections has a couple things in here, different colors. Categories has a bunch of stuff in here, and then places has a bunch of things in here. What each one of these is, collections is like my favorites. It's like a shortcut menu to the things I use all the time. And my computer crashed I don't know, 8 months ago, and I had to buy a new computer, and I never got around to kind of like resetting this everything. I need to, because I have a whole bunch of stuff that I love, but I actually mostly use this folder down here called Ableton Plugins is what I mostly use, because this one I can just save this and keep it safe. So the collections is super cool. It's something I added in Live 10. I like it. It's great. I don't rely on it after my computer crashed because I don't really know how to back it up. I'm sure there's a way to back it up, but I don't know it. Categories is different categories of stuff, and I can go in here to my categories. You can show different categories and hide different categories. So for example, I actually don't really use my clips or my samples ever, so I could hide those and I'd be fine. But it doesn't really hurt me to leave them open, especially if I'm teaching stuff, so I just leave them open. But here we've got sounds. If I wanted to search for a certain sound by sound type, like if I wanted to get in here and get like a mallet sound, I would go here to my mallets, and I could load up any kind of mallets that are coming from Ableton Live, from Ableton, the company. I could drag these in here, and now, you know, whatever. Some bells. Yeah, this one's pretty cool. Let's just drag that one in. So now I got these bells. some different stuff there. And these are sounds that come with Ableton Live, and depending on which version of Live you have, you're gonna have more sounds or less sounds. If you have the standard version, you'll have a bunch of sounds, but if you have the studio version, you have a bunch more sounds, and they're actually really dope. So you've got all this stuff here, and you can just choose what kind of sound you're looking for and go in here and pick it out. And there's some good sounds in here. I've never been really in love with the sounds that come with Ableton Live, and that's one thing that Logic does have over Live, is the sounds that come with the program are a lot better with Logic. Logic, just out of the box, comes with a ton of really great sounds, drums and everything like that. But Live has upped their game in recent years, so it's a lot better than it used to be. And there's a lot of stuff to download from the website as well. So don't count it off completely, but you're definitely going to want some other plugins to kind of access Live, especially if you have the standard version. The standard version of Live is fair. It's not amazing. The studio version is actually amazing because Wavetable and Operator are both really dope. Here we got drums. These are all different drum kits that come with Ableton Live. A ton of different drum kits, and you can actually get more. I don't have all of them installed because I use mostly other drum kits from other places. Then you have instruments. Now, instruments and sounds are basically the same. The difference is the instruments goes by whatever instruments you have installed in Live, the ones that come with that come from the company. So here I've got analog, collision, drum rack, electric, external, impulse, instrument rack, operator, sampler, simpler, tension, wavetable. And these are ones that come with Live Studio. And I can get into these and I can find in here the same types of sounds that we could see over here in sounds. The difference is this one here will just take me, if I wanted like a synth bass, like a bass sound up here, I can go to my bass and it'll just load up all the different basses that I have in here and from any of these instruments here. But if I wanted to specifically find a wavetable bass sound, I click on the instruments and go to wavetable and then grab a bass from over here. So it gives you bass, it takes you to the same place, but it just gets there in different ways. And depending on what you're looking for, what you're trying to do, one is better than the other. Then I got audio effects. The audio effects that come with Live are really good. There's a lot of really cool ones nowadays. And especially if you have this Live Suite, then you're going to have some great ones. For example, all the ones that come with Max for Live. And that's really the reason to buy Live Suite, is the inclusion of Max for Live. That's like worth the price of admission right there, and you can do some really great stuff with it. Then we got MIDI effects. There's a lot of cool MIDI effects, and some of the stuff that you have to use, you can do in Logic and Pro Tools just kind of out of the box, and like with the Windows and like kind of menus and stuff, you have to use MIDI effects in Ableton Live to get there. And I'm going to show you those later. And then here's my Max for Live stuff. I'm not really going to get too deep into Max for Live because most people don't have Studio right now. Plugins, this is where your third-party plugins are going to be located. And to open this up, if you're kind of watching right now, a way to get to this, to turn these on, because they're off by default for some reason. I'm not really sure why. But to turn those on, the first thing you always have to do is go to your preferences and go to plugins here and make sure that these are turned on here. Use audio units and use VST2 and use VST3. These have to be turned on in order to use them. Okay, we're going to come back and talk about our preferences in just a second. Like after we're going to take a break here in a second, and we're going to come back and talk about the preferences. But after that, you got clips, which is a bunch of clips that come with Ableton Live. Like I said, mine's not very full. I really don't use these at all. And then samples. And again, these are a bunch of samples that come with Ableton Live. Again, I don't really use these because I just don't like finding stuff in here. And then down here is places. And places, a couple of really important parts here is the packs. The packs are things that you can add into Ableton Live, and you can see I've got a bunch of ones. Some of them I've bought, and some of them I've just downloaded for free. Especially if you have Max for Live, you can get a lot of really cool stuff. And then if you want to get more, you can see down here it says 37 live available packs. So I could download more of these here. Gloop says, why audio units VST and VST3? Well, so because you want to be able to get to a range of different stuff. And some companies don't make audio units and some companies don't make VSTs. It's pretty rare, but I do have some plugins that are like only audio units or only VSTs. So that's why you want to make sure you have them all. If you're using this on a Windows machine, you're not going to have the audio units option. Audio units is only Mac. You're not really missing out. The companies that sell stuff and that are the best ones, for the most part, they make both. But I do have a couple of plugins that are only VST and not, or only audio units and not VST, and vice versa. So that's why you want to make sure you have all three of them turned on. Also, I found that VSTs are a bit more stable than audio units generally, except for, as we saw earlier, apparently my battery 4 is not working right now, so I'm not sure why that's happening. I'm going to open it up by itself and make sure I can get it to work without messing with live later. But I don't really use battery that much anyway, so. So then you get the user library. User library is like if you save presets and stuff like that, you can put them in here. And this user library is okay, but it's a little bit cumbersome to get to. I'm not a huge fan of it. I actually prefer to make my own user library, and that's called my Ableton plugins. And this is a kind of a hack, and I'm going to show you how to do it later. I'm not going to show you how to do it right now because it's not super basic. It's not hard, but this is where I put my specific shortcuts and stuff. I'm a big fan of like having shortcuts in here and my drums and stuff like that. So I load everything up from here. Then and then down here are your folders you can add in. So these folders here are folders that I've added in later on. And you click on Add Folder and you just navigate to where that folder is. I click Add Folder and I say, I want to add in something from my Oliver and maybe Steam or whatever, H2N recordings or something like that, and that would pull it in over here. And you can see I've already got H2N recordings right here. And then those folders open up here on the side and I can search through them and stuff like that. So you definitely want to add folders in that you're navigating to a lot. You can see my sample libraries are over here on the left. And in here I've got all my sample libraries, and the ones I go to the most, I have them like here as a quick folder here. So here's all these. Different music stuff like that. So you can add these in super easy, and I highly recommend it. When you first add something in, it takes it a while to kind of like index it, but that means that it's going to be faster to search it later. So just have a little patience, even though it might not looking. If you have like a giant folder for like full of like, let's say you have like 4 gigabytes of drum samples. Well, those drum samples are going to be teeny tiny, right? So 4 gigabytes is like 1 million drum samples. That's going to take a while for Ableton to index all of them. But once it does, it'll allow you to search for those specific files really quickly. So that's what's up there. Now, just quickly, I want to take a break here for a second. But before we do, let's just finish up this stuff here, all these here. So down here, up here, you have your clips. These empty files, these empty slots here are called clip slots. And then over here are the clips themselves. And we just talked about these. And if you could hear, if I hit play, it plays stuff here. I go over here to this one here. There you go. And I can stop these. And I can play them from over here. So over here on the right hand side, you can see when I move my arrow keys up and down, it illuminates this whole horizontal row here. And this is what we call a scene in Ableton Live. This whole across here is called a scene. And so I got scene 1, scene 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. And you can add more just by hitting Command I. And you can add more of these in here. So these scenes, if I mouse on one here, I've got it selected here, see how it's selected? And I hit it and I hit return, it'll play it. So I can play different scenes here. Okay, so that's Oops, why is that loop turned off? So that's what this is going across. And you'll notice that if I see, this has like a little square. This one has like a little triangle, and it's a green triangle, and this is a square. Well, the triangles mean that's going to play it. That's a play marker here. That's to play the, it's what they call launch the clip. And this one here is going to stop the clip. It's a stop button. So when I have this one here, it's right now nothing's playing, but I can see once I hit my space bar, this is going to play. Now if I hit if I click on this one here, it's going to play that one. If I turn it off, it's going to go back to just playing this one here. Now watch this. When I hit play on it, it's going to flash before it actually starts playing. And you can see everything flashes when I first click it. And the reason why it's flashing is because that means it's getting ready to perform that action. If it's going to launch a clip, if it's going to stop a clip from playing, all that stuff there it's an action. So it's getting ready to do that action. And it doesn't do the action until we get over here. Now we're coming back to this global quantize. It doesn't do the action until we actually get to the 1 bar, the half bar, the quarter note, or whatever it is. And that's when it actually does that action. So I hit play, and it's playing this one here. Now I hit play on this one, and it starts playing it on the downbeat. So now what that means is that all of my clips are in sync together, and that's how everything has been staying in sync this whole time. It's because my global quantize is set to 1 bar. So I hit go, and then I hit go here, and I hit go here, and I turn this one off, and you can hear it's doing everything in the right time for stuff. So that's a great little thing right there. That's your global quantize. Now we can also see down here at the bottom, this shows us information about whatever's playing, how many beats it is. And this one is 16 beats. It doesn't do it in bar. Well, it doesn't. I mean, it does it in bars over here on the left. How many times it's looped? So now we can see it's looped 2 times, and you can see this little timer goes through the clip to show you how much time is left in the clip, and this shows you how long that clip is. It's 16 beats. All right, and I think okay, yeah, down here is our send effects, and so if I want to add some reverb to it, change this reverb. Right, so you can hear that. I can do that. So I got my delay on it right there. And these are my returns over here. So remember in Pro Tools and Logic and all that stuff, you have your aux channels. Well, Ableton Live does not have aux channels. It only has 3 types of channels. It's got audio channels and MIDI channels, or MIDI, they call them tracks, audio tracks and MIDI tracks, and return tracks. And the return tracks are right over here. And these are basically what you use for your send effects. So like you'd use aux channels in Pro Tools, that's basically what you're doing here. But you can also use audio tracks in Ableton Live as kind of aux channels. And we're going to talk more about that when we talk about subgrouping and stuff like that. But you can go over here to create new tracks, create, insert audio track, insert MIDI track, like that. So we can insert these really quick. And to insert a track is just Command T for audio track, Command Shift T for MIDI track, and Command Option T for a new return track. So the T is for track, Command T is to create a new track, and then you hold down modifiers to change what type of track you're creating. So that is that. And then down here you've got your levels. I can make these louder and softer. All right, so you can mess around with that and you can adjust your volume, and I can mute things. I can mute things on and off. You can change the panning on stuff. And you can solo things out. Like that stuff there. Now, you'll notice that here, this is like, you know, a little triangle thing, and it's like a little triangle. If I click on it and hit delete, that'll put it back to the beginning, back to its default state, or I can click on this little triangle here to put it back to its default state. Click on that to put it back to its default state. In this case, I don't want it at its default state. Cool. And that's the basics of kind of navigating around stuff in Ableton Live. Let's see, over here on the right-hand side, you got your master out and the cue out, and this is your cue level. So you can see, like for example, if I wanted to listen to new loops, let's go over here to my sample phonics and let's listen to I hear voices. So if I'm playing stuff, and I want to play this, so I can drag that in, be like, yo, what? And I can even pitch this down to make it fit . They don't really fit because this one's like C major and this one's like D minor, and so it's, when I pitch it down, it becomes C minor, which is kind of weird. But there's a lot of stuff over here you can try out. So I can go over here, and so it's, you know, I can find something that does fit. Actually, nothing's really going to be in C minor probably. This one's C major. Nope. Anything in a major key here? Not really. You were talking about scary movie stuff the other day. Well, this is definitely all scary movie stuff. That's kind of cool. Oh, this stuff here. Yeah, that sounds cool. Yep. This one. You know, so they could do some neat stuff with it right here in the engine, messing with this. But we're going to talk about warp stuff a different day. That's not really. I just want to kind of get things anyway going. No, there's no way to automate the grain size and flux. All you can do is just set up another track over here and just record vocal bounce. Give it a name and grab the audio from the trap pluck sequence thing. Do that and just record stuff. Just use your mouse. And then you just use that second one that you just recorded and pull that back over here. So I just record all that stuff there, and then just do that, and then just... and just kind of mess around with that, and you could, whatever you want to do with it. But yeah, there's not like really a way. You can't like automate it. You can't assign it to a controller or anything like that. And if you want to know what you can and can't assign to a controller in here, just click Command M, or probably Control M on a Windows machine. No, not that. And it shows you in blue what you can actually assign to controllers. And it's not everything. It's almost everything, but it's not quite everything. Anyway, I think this is a good place to take a pause, and we're going to come back after the break, and we're going to talk about this stuff over here, making sure how this stuff, just talking a little bit more about how this stuff actually works, the different views, some shortcuts, just taking a look at the arrangement view, because it's the same as the session view basically. It's just there's a couple of differences where things are laid out. And then we're going to talk about the Ableton preferences, and then we're going to be done for the day. So let's take a break. Let's be back at, let's see, it's 11:12. Let's do 15 minutes. So be back at like 11:30. Be back at 11:30. We'll do like another probably half hour, 45 minutes or something like that. All right, cool. See y'all on the flip.